One thing I've noticed throughout the last few years is cheaper Android phones are getting scarily good, boasting flagship features at literally half the price. And now is the perfect time to introduce this. This is the new realme GT2 Pro. And welcome to my day in the life. Hey Google, boil the kettle. Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Alex here for TechFlow. And now if I asked you what the fastest growing smartphone company is, you'd probably say something along the lines of maybe Apple or Samsung or Xiaomi, but it's not. It's actually realme. Now, I want to start out this video by talking specifically about design. Now, this is a flagship phone with a 6.7-inch diagonal screen across the front, and you've got a hole punch camera up there in the top left. The first thing you notice with this phone, especially when you're comparing it to the 13 series from Apple, is just how thin and light this thing is. And that's mainly to do with the back of this phone. According to realme, they've designed this thing to feel like paper. That obviously makes it feel familiar, it makes it light yet durable, and obviously therefore it has much more grip on the back of it than, let's say, a phone with glass. And also, I just wanted to mention that the cameras, unlike some other flagship phones, don't protrude out the back anywhere near as much as, well, some other phones, which is really nice to see. Design here, 9 out of 10. Solid. Okay, so first and foremost, let's chat pricing of this device. Now, there's an early bird price right now. I'll put the links in the description. You've got $5.99 here in the UK. It's going to $6.99 after that. Now, the first thing I usually like to do in the morning is update myself on my social media accounts. I try to make this a habit most mornings, as that way I'm updated on the world and I don't have the urge throughout the rest of the day to keep checking my social media accounts. 2 huge wins in my eyes. And you know what else is a huge win? The display on this device. So it's got all the flagship specs on paper with LTPO2, which goes basically from 1 Hz all the way up to 120. It's an AMOLED screen with 509 ppi, and we're looking at around 1400 nits peak brightness. All of that shining through some Gorilla Glass Victus. The screen is plenty bright enough for pretty much any situation, and the 120 Hz is enough to make anybody's eyes dribble. Right, now it's time to walk the dog. Okay, so whilst we're out on our dog walk, it's the perfect time to test out the camera system on the back in some realistic, idealistic conditions. So the ultra-wide sensor on the back of this camera is at 50mm, which gives you about a 150-degree field of view, which is actually the first of its type in any smartphone. The main shooter on the back is, well, your telephoto at 24mm. Now, as you all know, photos are really subjective. I could tell you a photo looks good and you might think otherwise. So the best thing for me to do is to take some photos straight out of this camera without edits and display them to you so you can make up your own mind. Some thoughts on the camera system would be that the ultra-wide has a fixed focal length. What does that mean? Well, basically, if you get too close to a subject, you'll find that you're out of focus. But I think for what most people in their day-to-day lives would use an ultra-wide for, which is to, I don't know, sort of emphasize how big things are, you'll be able to get away with this sensor absolutely fine, as long as you're not getting too close to your subject. The GT2 Pro can also shoot up to 8K video, but for now let's focus on 4K is because I'm pretty sure that's what most people are going to be shooting out of this thing. You can shoot up to 4K 60 FPS and the footage from the phone is really sharp and stable. And you can even move the phone around to even visually see how much stabilization is being applied to the image. In video mode at 4K 30 FPS, you can use that ultra-wide sensor so you can go all the way down to 0.6 and zoom in with both optical and digital zoom all the way to ×10. In photo mode, you get double this all the way up to ×20. The main shooter of this device does an absolutely fantastic job for video, but you can tell that the ultra-wide is slightly more washed out than the main shooter, but this isn't anything you wouldn't be able to fix in post or after you've taken your shot. Now, like I've mentioned, 4K shooting is available across all of the lenses. However, if you do switch to 4K 60, which this does support, you will completely lose the ultra wide for video. Obviously, it's just that main sensor that supports the 4K 60. The cameras on this phone are good, but they don't stand out. It's definitely not the phone's party trick. But that's fine because I really wasn't expecting it down at this price. With it being an Android, the camera app is chocked full of different quirks and features which make actually shooting with this phone quite fun and enjoyable. You've got features all the way from slow motion recording to plenty of different portrait modes, and even an ultra wide mode that makes the ultra wide lens even more ultra wide. Yeah, so back from a dog walk, it's time to head to the office now and get on with a few errands for the day. So let's talk about the ways that you can unlock this phone. Now, as you've seen, it does have facial recognition, but I have noted that because it is optical facial recognition in that it's using the camera, not a dot projector, if the lighting's a little bit off or it just can't see your face very well, it's not going to work. Obviously, underneath, we've got an underglass fingerprint sensor. Can we all just take a second? How does that work so fast? Underneath the screen, this is the fingerprint sensor working. I had a call with my friend Mitch, who's currently helping me level out the floor in the office for a set that we're trying to put together. I took and uploaded some pictures to Dropbox of the work that I managed to get done over the last few days so that Mitch could see the progress. Now it's time to talk about the UI. It's running realme UI 3.0, and to be honest, it feels very much like stock Android. It's got a search, it's got an app drawer, and it's got the settings pane, all in the places where you just expect them to be, which is really, really nice. And I think that's one of the main reasons that I keep picking up this phone compared to other Android phones that I've tested. I have seen a few people complaining online about a few subtle advertisements coming up around and inside of the UI, but personally I can't really comment on this because I've been using this for the last month and I haven't seen one of them. Next up, I get back into the car and I head over to my father's house, which is where my core network is, because I've got some updates that I need to roll out to some of my equipment. And this is now where we can talk about the performance of this device, because it really is something else in a league of its own, especially at this price point. The network pages that I was accessing whilst upgrading some of my radios was all handled through Chrome. It's not really even a test for this phone. Inside of here, we've got the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 chip, and it basically will just run circles around anything you want to do. As time goes on, all smartphone apps are getting more and more optimized to run on a wider range of devices, which pretty much means having the top-end CPU in your phone is becoming less of a main thing to worry about. All you need to worry about is, if you did get this phone because of the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, anything on the Play Store will run flawlessly on this device. I'm yet to come across a game or an app that's given me one little stutter. Okay, so back home, and I wanted to give you some condensed thoughts on this phone because it seems, on first glance, too good to be true. Well, there's more. You get a 5,000 milliamp hour battery, you've got Dolby Atmos support, you've got 8 to 12 gigs of RAM, and an option to have 128 to 1 terabytes of internal storage. Unfortunately though, it's got no expandable storage, it's got no IP rating, and it's got no headphone jack to be seen anywhere on the device. Deal breakers? I wouldn't really say so. With all the flagship features at basically a mid-range price point and a stock Android experience, we really think this phone is hard to ignore. But that's just my thoughts anyway, guys. My name's been Alex, this has been TechFlow, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.